for 10 years, you were on like 6 medications.
Yeah, there was Benadryl, melatonin, clonazepam, Zoloft.
Birth control too.
I've been diagnosed with a generalized anxiety, depression, bipolar type 2. So I was getting all these mixed signals, and I was taking this medication and I just still felt horrible. I felt like I was constantly having to take mental health days. The problem was, like, which you really, really helped me with, was just listening to my own body. When I first had the breakthrough call with you, I was just interested in the recipe book, but since actually digging in deep, I feel like I learned so much more.
Our gut is connected to our brain, and every problem, every symptom is a symptom of some sort of digestive problem, detoxification issue, and it's always rooted in hormones, always.
I feel like I can just like handle life now.
Warriors, happy Wednesday. Diane Kaiser here, creator of DianeKaiser.com and founder of a program called Cleanse Your Body, Heal Your Hormones, and Ignite Your Life. And really, ignite means like get your unicorn horn on, right? Discover your magic so that you can pursue your passion with reckless abandon. So today I wanted to bring to you one of our warriors. This is Warrior Crush Wednesday. And we've got Bailey McCabe over here. She is a badass, soon to be attorney. And she came to me last year and she was like, uncle, or shall we say gender specific, aunt, aunt, help me. I've been struggling for a long time. I need some assistance. I need some guidance. I want to find or rediscover the warrior inside of me that I know is there so that I could be the best me possible. So Bailey, thank you for being here today with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
We're going to keep you guys on for about 40 minutes today as we explore the journey that Bailey took with us in this program and working with me. For many women, we have no idea. We have no clue what our full potential is. We're handed medications. We're handed birth control. We're handed antidepressants. There's a lot of things that we're given that just don't get to the root cause of why we're suffering. So today we're going to talk about Bailey's journey. Ideally, it's going to inspire you to consider doing something deeper and different, because it could be decades literally before we wake up and go, I feel like there's something better for me. So Bailey's journey has been something that many women have no clue that is even possible. She's been on many medications, a lot of gut issues, a lot of brain issues, a lot of clarity, focus issues, sleep issues. So this one's going to be a doozy. If you guys have never heard of our free Facebook group, we have one for women specifically, and we talk about cleansing your body, healing your hormones, and igniting your life. It's called Hormone Healing Hacks for Unicorn Wellness Warriors. So I'm actually posting that in this group now. You guys get like VIP access, and you get like earlier access before everybody else does when we share information. We've helped thousands of women all around the world transform their life radically in ways that they never had imagined by way of looking at many aspects of our lives, like feeding your body, feeding your brain, feeding your heart, feeding your soul. These are all things that need to be fed every single day. So it's way beyond diet, exercise, and supplementation today. It's way beyond that. And today's journey with Bailey is going to show you what your full potential might look like. Bailey, you came to me, and I'll let you elaborate a little bit more on this, but you came to me, and I'm just looking at her first intake form with me, is that she came to me and she had 3 problems, 3 main ones: anxiety, depression, IBS, which is considered irritable bowel syndrome, and then low energy. She also had complained of heartburn, chronic cold with symptoms, chronic fatigue, depression. Does any of this sound familiar? This is like the average female today, right? And Bailey, how old are you?
20s. I'm 26 now. Yes, 26.
Like, this is not something that a woman in their 40s must have. Like, what we think of, like, oh, we're getting older and then we feel crappier, right? Like, it's age. But no. Bailey, how long were you not feeling well before you came to me?
Years and years. I think, the anxiety and the depression and stuff started happening around when I was 16. And then the IBS, I think, probably really started kicking in when I was 18. And then it had been kind of on and off forever, but it was more like a normal thing for me. Like, I just expected that it would happen basically every day.
Yeah. Yeah. We get into these like, oh, well, it's my body. So it's all I've ever known. I guess it's just normal to have like diarrhea or constipation or depression or sleep issues. And I just do
Yeah.
what the commercials say, right? The commercials say, well, if you have these symptoms, to talk to your doctor and it's just going to be better. So, the medications that you were taking when you first came to me, which ones were they? Which things had you been, I would say numbing, but like just band-aiding for a while?
I was on Zoloft. I was on clonazepam. Been on Ambien for a while before to try to help me sleep, and it didn't really work. I would sleep for like 3 hours, and then I'd wake up, energized. Nothing was just really helping with like the sleep. Also, when I came to you at that point, I think had been having my period and spotting every day since April, and I came to you in September.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that was also, once I went off the birth control, I figured out that that was what was messing everything, a lot of stuff up too.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, there's bowel problems, PMS problems, brain problems, it's like, God, when can I just feel normal? I mean, one of the questions I like to ask everybody before I start working with you guys is to ask, like, when is the last time that you felt your best? And what I find very, like, to me, I get really empathetic about, and I marry myself to your dreams, is that you said, I'm not sure if I've ever felt good. My health complaints have been going on for 9 years since I was 16. Mm-hmm. So it's so sad that women think that this is just like, oh, well, everybody experiences it because they're on drug commercials and everything. So for 10 years, you went through and were on like 6 medications, one pill for every ill. So when you were doing those things, where was your brain state at? It's like, were you thinking like, is this just how I'm supposed to feel?
Yeah, at that point, I guess I just had kind of like accepted. I was like, this is just, my life. Like, I'm always going to have stomach issues. My parents have stomach issues. So that's just, the way it's going to be. And then, with depression and anxiety, I just was like, I'm just forever going to be, I would take medication and it would alleviate, whatever symptom temporarily. But, even with like the anti-anxiety medication, it makes you really groggy and sleepy. So if I was having a panic attack at school, I couldn't just, take my sometimes I would, and then I would just be like not productive for the rest of the day. And the next day I would be super stressed out because I was behind on work. So it was like this vicious cycle of needing the anti-anxiety medication, but then also being debilitated by it. So once I was able to kind of, I think also the problem was like, which you really, really helped me with, was just listening to my own body. Because before, I would sit and just study for 8 hours and only get up to go to the bathroom or grab food. And even when I felt myself burning out, I felt like I couldn't sacrifice 15, 20 minutes to just, clear my head and get everything back together. And then all of a sudden I would get to the point where I would just be, so overcome with anxiety that I couldn't be productive at all. So, Diane's really helped me with just having me be more aware of, my needs mentally. So, even the summer, that was one of my big concerns too. I was telling Diane, like, I don't know if I'll be able to study for this bar if I don't, the test, if I don't get my act together, because right now, just everyday things are making me anxious. And since, I've been studying for almost 10 weeks now, and just being more mentally aware, every like couple hours, I'll go outside, I'll take a 15-minute walk, 10-minute walk, depending, and, just get some vitamin D and just take a breather, take a step away from the material and like go back to it. And I've found that I've been able to like, maintain, not be having panic attacks every day. And it's just, also obviously, I wasn't, before I used to reach for the like quick meal because I was like, I'm in law school. I don't have time to be cooking and doing all this stuff. So,
right.
And then now that Diane has like showed me like, oh, it's actually not that hard, to just make healthy food. It actually makes me more scheduled and makes my life easier.
Yeah. Yeah. And you just said a mouthful there, is that we come to a point in our life, right? We come to a point in our life where like, okay, what are the consequences of band-aiding this? And we don't know. We don't know that we're taking band-aids because we're just trusting our doctors, because there's a lot of money in pharmaceutical, not necessarily research, because like 5% of the money they spend in pharmaceutical land is on research. The other 95% is on marketing and advertising. So it's a great profit model, but it's not great to build our health. So we all are getting to this point now where we're realizing that this system and this model does not work. So in your case, Bailey, you were taking these medications for a long time, one of my least favorite being the birth control pill, as well as the antidepressants. And I'm actually going to give you guys a gift at the end of this interview, because I've done a lot of research on depression and like what causes it and the multiple different ways that depression can show up. And for many of us today, we are being completely misled on what depression really is and the etiology. In other words, the reason why we feel depressed. And doctors are missing the mark completely. In most cases, I think that less than 5% of cases really benefit from medications, but then the other 95% is just like lifestyle modification and looking into labs, functional medicine labs, that is, and really looking for healing opportunities that doctors are not trained to. Doctors are trained to look at labs for medications. We are trained to look at labs for healing opportunities so that you don't have to be on medications that are super toxic. And as Bailey said, can make you even worse. So Bailey, you hit this fork in the road and you're like, I've been doing this medication dance for like 10 years. I have a big life that I've prepared for myself. This is now at stake. If I don't get my act together, this is now at stake. So when you came to me, what was the main motivating factor that you're like, I need this because?
So I think the main motivating factor was mainly just the anxiety and the depression were my main two big ones. I had seen London's transformation on Instagram and I was like, oh, this looks really interesting. And then I looked on your website and you had posted something about how women have been misdiagnosed as like bipolar and all these things. As you, Diane knows, I've been diagnosed with a bunch of different things. My doctors were like, oh, you just have generalized anxiety. Oh, you just have anxiety and depression. Oh, you're bipolar type 2. And then I would go to someone else and they'd be like, no, you're not bipolar type 2. You're just anxious. You just have anxiety and depression. So I was getting all these mixed signals. And at the end of the day, I was taking this medication and I just still felt horrible. I was, drinking 6 to 8 cups of coffee a day just to get myself through the day. And even with the coffee, it would make me feel anxious and wired, but I was still exhausted mentally. And I just felt like I can't continue on like this. Like, this is so exhausting. And then London was talking about, on her Instagram, she was posting all this stuff about how much better she felt, how much more energy she had. And I was like, oh, I wonder if, that's possible for everyone.
Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
I wonder. I'm a wondering woman. When you came to me, were you like, I'm ready to be?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what you even said. You're like, some people aren't ready at that, to take the big step yet. But at that point in my life, I was like, I will try anything just to not feel like this anymore.
What was at stake in your future that you would not have been able to do that you can now?
I felt like I wouldn't have even been able to like study for this bar really, or, stay on track, because before it was like I was having trouble going to school because I would have such bad anxiety that it was like I felt like I had to just stay locked inside. Or if something set me off that day, like I would have a panic attack and it just exhausted me all day. And then it was like I felt like I was constantly having to take mental health days. And, I feel like a mental health day for everyone, it's great. And I still do take mental health days, but the frequency of them, I was like, I can't sustain a lifestyle like this. I can't, hold down a job if I'm having to take a once a week mental health day, midweek, because I can't I can't pull myself together.
Bailey, I don't know if you know this or not, but it's pretty crazy that you know what the number one cause of disability is now?
What?
Depression. So like, you know, I mean, what I'm trying to do with inspiring everyone out there, with your story, Bailey, and with so many of these women that we're working with who transform radically their lives, that just starts with a wonder, could it be better? And then it turns into a new way. And then you become a warrior, because it's like, I am going to protect my future and my body and my dreams with everything now that I know what I can feel like. And the depression thing now is so normalized that that's what I'm trying to really do with you. And this video is to let people know that like depression is not the new norm. It's maybe common, but why are we normalizing mental health and mental illness? This is not okay that antidepressants are being handed out for skin problems. I mean, this is stuff I hear all day long. And if you guys are listening to this and you're like, oh my God, I've heard this and I've heard these stories, please share in the comments like what you're hearing, what questions you might have about this. And then also, if this is you and you're like, no, I don't want this to be my reality, or I want to change this, then there's a link I put on the side or wherever you're watching this, above or below. If you're later listening to this on the podcast, just dianecage.com/breakthrough, because that's what you deserve. Is you deserve to break through these barriers that are preventing you from being your badass self, just like Bailey did. But please don't come to me wanting to just put your tiptoe in the water. Only come to me when you're ready for your life to radically transform, because you are done living this life that you've been living for too long. I even think a day is too long. So yeah, mental health, 2 weeks now is the average time people take off of work because of depression. So if you just did the math, yeah, I don't know if you made a $100,000 a year income, right? Divided by 12, that's, I don't know, maybe like $8,000 a month. It's 2 weeks out of the year is $4,000. $4,000 is the cost. Maybe it's to your corporation, but maybe it's for you because you don't have that sick time, so you're not getting paid. That's the opportunity cost. When we really look at the expense of not feeling your best, it becomes larger than we even imagine. So when you came to me, Bailey, what percentage of your full potential were you operating at?
Well, maybe 5%, maybe 10. I don't know, not very high.
Not very high.
I was like, every day was just kind of like trudging along, trying to just like, okay, just get through today, and then you can get home, recover, and then try to make it through the next day.
That doesn't even sound good. I mean, it's probably foreign to you now to say it like that, but
yeah, even going to work was like super embarrassing, because it was like I was constantly running by the front of, the office to go to the bathroom, and I didn't want to like tell everyone like, oh, I have really bad IBS. Also, I was like, only 25 at the time. So it was like people, associate IBS, I feel like, with older people. So, that was even like embarrassing for me. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to go to work today. And then that would like play into my anxiety. I'm like, oh my God, what do people think I'm doing in the bathroom? Do they think I'm like running out? Like, but you can't go to your boss. Like, I guess you could, but you're not going to go to your boss and be like, hey, I have IBS. Like, please excuse the bathroom runs.
Yeah, it's like, it's more acceptable to say, hey, I've got period problems, than it's to say I have poop problems. It's more socially acceptable. Oh, and then if you have period problems, like, go home and take your antidepressants so your inner bitch isn't like, all over the office.
Yeah.
So right now, looking at where you're at now, if you could look back at yourself and talk to people who maybe are afraid, I know that there was probably a little bit of fear inside of you. I know that there was some fear inside of you that was like affecting you on a daily basis. I mean, the root cause of all these symptoms, really, it's not about the symptoms. It's about how it makes us feel, living a life where you've got bowel problems and you've got period problems and you've got mental problems. There's a lot of shame and embarrassment, like you said, that comes with that. So yeah, the symptoms are gone, but the main thing that's gone is these emotions that really eat away at you on a regular basis, right? So when you're that low, when you're that 5-10%, you're also not thinking clearly. So you might not even have confidence in your ability to make a good decision. So when you first came to me, what were some of the things that were going through your mind that you were like, I'm afraid, I'm really afraid of this, but I'm going to do it anyway?
So a lot of my hesitancies were like, well, money. I'm, in debt with law school. Like, I don't have the money to do this. But then, I kind of was like, this is an investment in myself. Like, I'm investing in my education. Like, why can't I invest in my own health? I've done some budgeting, and I started taking, that was like the first one that I knocked out. And then also, I think it was just like kind of being scared of like, what if I give this my all and it just still isn't enough? Like, what if I'm just like still sick forever? But then at that point, I was just kind of like, you know what? If I don't give it a try, then I'm never going to know if this actually works for me. And I would rather just know at this point. And now I feel like so much better. It's just easier. Like, it doesn't even feel like I'm like doing work to maintain. Like, I know what I'm supposed to be putting in my body. I know what I'm not supposed to be putting in my body. And it's just like, it actually makes my life more scheduled.
Yeah. And that's the biggest fear of what you had just talked about there was that we've tried so many things. So many women have tried so many things. They've been to many doctors, many practitioners, like they've tried many different fitness programs. They've tried a shitload of coffee, like you said, I'm doing what everybody else is doing. And 86% of women drink a lot of coffee on a regular basis to borrow energy from our future by a way of asking our adrenals to kick out a ton of adrenaline, but it's all artificial. And, you've learned a lot about coffee and caffeine and self-medicating for a long time. So when we look at where you were before and where you are now, where would you say the biggest difference of like, what did your life look like on a regular basis? Like if you woke up in the morning to the end of the day, you talked a little bit about it earlier, but I want to kind of like get a before and after so people can hear that. What was it before and what was it after? How you're living your life? So
before it was, oh gosh, so like I usually didn't get very good sleep. So I would I would probably dedicate about like 12 hours a night trying to sleep, because I would just like lay there and not fall asleep. And then, or if I did fall asleep, I'd wake up and then I'd be up for a couple hours. So I would wake up, around like 2 a.m. and then I'd like study for a couple hours, try to go back to sleep till 5, wake up, still feel exhausted, but was also like so anxious that I couldn't lay in bed, if that makes sense. So then I would just get up, start my day, and I just felt like I was like being dragged through the mud throughout my day. I was so exhausted. Every single task was like, okay, come on, just like get through the day. And now it's, I'm actually able to sleep through the night, which is, I never thought I was going to be able to do without a bunch of medication. I just feel normal. Like I have energy. I'm not sleeping, sleepy all day. It's not like I'm like, oh my gosh, I need my after lunch caffeine fix or anything like that. I just feel like, I guess, normal. Like never felt normal before.
Yeah. So people are like, I just want to feel normal again. I'm like, how about exceptional? How about we get to the exceptional point? And it's always a continuum, like you don't just get like exceptional in, 10 weeks, it's a process. So I always say that like healing is not a destination. Healing is a journey, it's our whole life. So I'm hearing possibly some of the women who might be thinking, okay, well, I'm just going to stop drinking coffee and eat a little healthier and get off medication, which is not what we're saying, you guys. We're not saying that at all. This is a process. And, in order to get off medications like this, you definitely want to work with a skilled practitioner like myself, as well as your doctor, because that's what me and Bailey did. Like we have to do that. We can't just cold turkey this stuff. These drugs are nasty. And so it's also why I recommend before you even consider taking them, that you consider alternatives. Because even oftentimes lifestyle is the potential best medicine for you, but you get to make that decision because you're your own best healer. So Bailey, if you could talk to yourself before you took these medications, before you went down that path, what would you say to your former self?
Definitely stop. Just don't even start. That was like, yeah. Cause by the time I came to you, I had already been on birth control for almost 10 years. Like I'd been medicated like that. And I always thought they were helping, I didn't even, I guess I was being told they were helping me, if that makes sense. So I was like, oh, like, I guess I kind of feel less crazy. Okay. But, you know, it was more like it was putting a band-aid on a bullet wound, like very, very temporary fixes that weren't actually getting to the core of anything. So I would just tell myself, like, don't go to the medications right away. Like, try natural, you know, stuff first, because like it really does feel so different on your body. Like, even just like eating, you know, out or something, like you can, before I think I was eating so much bad stuff too on top of the medication, like it was just this like bad combo of perpetually just feeling horrible. I wasn't even eating healthy food. I was just like constantly calorie counting. And so like that was like one of my things. When I came to you, it was I told you like, oh, I don't want to lose weight. Like, that's not what my interest is. I just want to feel better. And so, you know, I had tried eating healthier, but it was like at the end of the day, you know, like if I eat a salad for lunch and then I go eat fast food for dinner, like it doesn't matter, you know, or like if I drink a kombucha, like that's not going to cure everything.
Right.
So, and then, you know, I did try working out to like manage my stress, because everyone was like,
exercise is your best antidepressant.
Yeah. But then, you know, it kind of got to like a point where I was working out way too much. And it wasn't about like how I was feeling. It was like the control, you know, being skinny enough and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So, and then, you know, I always felt hungry too. But then after, you know, working with you, like I guess, you know, I was just eating the wrong food though. Like I was eating really just like the quick stuff, because I was like, I'm in law school. I don't have time to cook for myself. I need to just
stories,
grab something off the shelf.
Yeah, it's one of the things that whenever I work with Bailey or anybody, it's really important to get down to the core of what stories we tell ourselves. Like, oh, you know, I hear this one's like, everybody will understand this one. Oh, I'm Italian, so of course I have to eat pasta. You know, of course I have to eat high inflammatory foods. And this is a story I own, and therefore I cannot abandon these things. And I'm just going to keep my thyroid disease because of this category that I have been told that I need to fit in. And what I like about your story and your journey is that even the doctors who told you that, you know, you should be feeling better, which maybe people haven't heard this before, but like 60% of how we feel is also placebo. So if a doctor says, oh, you should feel better from this, then our brain goes, all right, well, I'm going to make up my mind that we should feel better. But at some point, the body catches up with you. And it's like, you know, all the chemicals and all of the gut destruction on top of what you already had, gut destruction. Then, well, at some point, my mind can't override my physical body, and my physical body like needs some repair work. There's only so long that our mindset and our brain power and our willpower can trump the disease state of our body, the inflammatory state of our body. Mm-hmm. So I want to talk next about the labs and stuff we did, because it's not just eating healthier. Like Bailey's talking about a lot of things that we did together in her journey. You know, we successfully got her off of 5 medications?
Yeah, there was Benadryl, because I was taking that every night to sleep. I was taking a different amped up melatonin. I was taking clonazepam. I was taking Zoloft, a lot of it. I was taking...
I thought there was one more. There was birth control too. And that was like, a decade, which is, you know, birth control robs you of so many things, you know, mainly B vitamins. And B vitamins are the things that gives us energy and vitality. B vitamins is what hormones are made out of. So it's interesting, you know, I look at these reports of women who have been on birth control for a long time, and it's like our adrenals are flatlined. So then you take birth control so that you can have irresponsible sex or fix your hormones, and then your hormones go haywire and you don't want to have sex. And then, you know, for years later, you also may have something called sex hormone binding globulin, which goes through and attaches itself to testosterone, which means that you don't have any bioavailable testosterone, you can't build muscle, you can't lose weight, you don't have the confidence, and there goes your sex drive. So there's like so many things. And then testosterone is really important for building your bone health and your strength. in your tissues. So there's so much to this, but nobody talks to you about this stuff before they say, here, take this pill, but they don't say, here's like 10 nutrient deficiencies that you're going to struggle with for years that we are not even educated on. So it's not the doctor's fault. It's just that we don't even know these things. And so I'm happy that you came to me so we could educate you on those things, because we found a lot of nutrient deficiencies on top of a lot of other things that Bailey has mentioned. What she was experiencing was like gas, constipation, belching, gurgles, bowel movements, heartburn. So a lot of these things are gut mediated, but our gut is connected to our brain, and every problem, every symptom is a symptom of some sort of digestive problem, detoxification issue, and it's always rooted in hormones, always. So for those of you who are watching, you might be thinking, oh, I don't have digestion problems. I don't have hormone problems. Every symptom is rooted in digestion and hormones, because your stuff that you eat, 70% energy we get, it's coming from our food. So we put it in our mouth, our stomach has to decide what to do with it and convert it into fuel by way of metabolism. Our metabolism is governed by our minerals, which is governed by our hormones. So every single thing, even though your doctor may say, oh, it hurts right here, but maybe it could be coming from somewhere in your liver. There's many of these things that oftentimes the problem we think that it is, it's not even the problem that we're being led to go after. It's something deeper. It's something better in its soul, mind, heart, body. And we got to go after all of them at the same time to heal your body all at once instead of just parts of your body, which is where Bailey was coming from. So looking at this and looking at where you are now, what are the things that you're able to do now moving forward that you can dream into that you couldn't think about before because you were just looking at getting through another day?
More in like the short term, I guess. Just, getting through the bar, like actually being able to be successful at my job and like feel good while doing it, not like just pushing myself through every day while like being on the verge of breaking, just like actually being able to like do what I'm there to do. But, like even like long term, I was very afraid of like, I've always wanted to be a mother, and I was super afraid of having children because I was like, what if I like give my kids all these messed up genes or something, or like, what if I'm not going to be able to be a good enough mother because, I have all these issues. And now that I know I have those capabilities, and I know that like I can be successful, and it's not going to be, I'm worried about like having anxiety and like abandoning my children or something, like actually I feel like I can just like handle life now.
That's such a big one, because so many women are unintentionally abandoning their children in many ways. They're in bed, like you said, 12 hours a day, 14 hours a day, they go drop their kids off for school, then they go back to bed. I mean, this is becoming a reality, and this is our future. This is happening slowly but surely to the point where now I'm talking to women who are in bed, they can't get out of bed, they have no job, and they can't even afford good health. So don't let it get to that. If your body's speaking to you right now, probably it's screaming at you. Or maybe if you're on medications, you can't feel the screams, or you don't even know that the screams are the wisdom of your body saying there's something deeper happening down here we want to fix. So I know there's something that probably people are wondering too, Bailey, is, there's so much power that we're taught to give to these doctors. Take these medications or else. You need to be on these medications for life because, right? So what were some of the things that were going through your mind? You had to have been afraid of getting off of medications, right? Like, oh God, what if these things come back? What if I want to kill myself? What if I can't even function? Like, what was going on, and how did you get through those fears?
So with the medication, I actually forgot earlier. I was also very afraid of going off birth control too.
Right.
So, because I had been on it since I was 16, all of my friends had been on it. Like, it was just the norm. And I was like, what's going to like happen, like to my body if I'm just not on birth control? And, I had a very serious boyfriend at the time that I was living with. So I was really concerned about that. But I ended up reaching out to London personally, and she was like, oh, no. Like, this isn't that big of a concern. Like, this should be lower on the scale. And then with the antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication, that was scary for me too, because that was really scary because I was like, I don't know like how I'm going to feel. Like, am I just going to be crazy all of a sudden now that I don't have these to rely on anymore? And, as I started slowly weaning off, though, we worked with my psychiatrist, who he was helpful in some parts. Difficult. A lot of doctors don't want to let go. They, even when I was going in for all the checkups and telling him like I do feel better, and I would notice like if I went and like slipped up, like I could tell that there, like if I went and like went drinking or something, like all of a sudden, my body's like on full alert. Like I can feel all the anxiety coming back. I can like the next day I would feel depressed, or just even eating poorly, like the spike in the sugar levels. Like it just got to the point where it was like, okay, this tastes good for a second, but like, oh, it's just not great. And then once I was finally at the point where I was like maintaining my healthy lifestyle, like through eating and like being more mindful, I realized that like, oh, I'm not having like all these random like anxiety attacks anymore. Like I'm not having as many days. And then as I started weaning off the medication and then like just kept building and maintaining the healthy lifestyle, I felt like I didn't need, like, just didn't really feel like I was so scared of like, oh my God, like, I'm going to be crazy without these.
Yeah. You realize that the cure was you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a big one. And a lot of people are afraid to believe in themselves because, like you said, doctors are trained to put you on a medication and keep you on the medication. It's their training, and it's also part of the profit model. A lot of doctors get the bonuses if they've got about a 60% compliance patient ratio on medications. So their incentive to get you off of medications is not very great, because that would mean that their paycheck would not be as great. So we have to truly understand, why doctors say the things that they do. It's a part of their training. It's a part of the profit model, bottom line. They're not trained on looking at root cause dysfunctions, such as what we'll talk about next, if that's okay, Bailey, a couple of the things we found in your labs. So when Bailey came to me, we looked at a few labs, and this is part of our program, is we don't just guess. We don't just throw a bunch of things at you in supplements and put you on like a boxed cleanse and just guess at like, oh, maybe vitamin D, that's a great antidepressant, no, we don't just guess things. We're looking at really some huge, amazing healing opportunities with advanced labs. And what we found with Bailey and we just talked a lot about her genetics before this call, is that there could be many things that could be standing in your way of being your optimal self. That would be like the body that you want, the energy that you desire, and the life that you deserve. And what we found on her hormone tests is that her thyroid was really slowly functioning. And what I mean by that is not like, okay, go get your blood tested by a doctor and they'll go look at T3, T4, TSH. No, that's like just very top of we're looking at like the iceberg on the top, like at the very tippy top. We get scuba diving gear on and we go way down there and look at the bottom underneath part of the iceberg. Doctors are looking at what's on the surface. Snorkeling is kind of like what the equivalent of what maybe functional doctors would do by giving you natural supplements, the natural versions of the prescriptions. So that's kind of like snorkeling. Let's look at the top, but we dive way deep underneath there with scuba diving gear and look at the deepest root cause issues that are expressing themselves through your tissues. So if your body could whisper to you on these lab tests, they communicate to us what your body's saying. So what we found is that her thyroid looked fine on her blood test, but her thyroid was not optimally functioning to clear out chemicals, toxins, and these medications from her body, harmful estrogens, etc. And what we also found is that her liver wasn't doing a very good job. In other words, her garbage disposal was really slow. And so we had to look at that. If we've got sluggish metabolism, then the body's going to hold on to waste and you're not going to feel good. When your metabolism is sluggish, that means your hormones are not doing their job. They're not able to clear stuff from your body. So everything gets depressed. So I ask you again, then, you guys, what's depression? Depression is when we look at these lab results and we see that the body is just slowed down, and it's doing that to protect you because so many of us are going at 1,000,000 miles an hour and the body's going, hey, dude, we weren't designed this way. We weren't designed to be 80 miles an hour all day long. Your car can't drive that long without filling up the gas tank multiple times throughout the day if you're going to go 500 miles. Why would you be able to, right? So her metabolism was really slow. Her body was converting estrogen into really harmful estrogens that are carcinogenic and also DNA mutating, that increase our odds of breast cancer, ovarian cancer, and estrogen dominant related diseases like endometriosis and cystic fibroids and many, many things that women are diagnosed with and told there's nothing you can do about it. Take the birth control pill. You got to stay on this or else you're going to get these things. And then the last thing is that we found that Bailey did have some genetics that predispose her to some brain neurological issues, as well as some gut inflammation. So we looked at that. Your genes are not your destiny, but your genes are also something that your doctor is not even looking at. So we can alter your genes, which is what we did with Bailey, through the expression of how they express, which is like a healthy, clean lifestyle. Of all the things that we learned in all of the lab things, all the lab tests, Bailey, what were some of the most helpful that you found and some of maybe the most mind-blowing or maybe some of the most surprising things?
I think the most recent results, I think, were kind of eye-opening because it was everything that we had already kind of worked through though at that point, like we knew, but then by looking there, we could see like, oh, this is where you're like super susceptible because you have, both these traits from your parents, or like you only have one. So like, this is something you need to be cognizant of. And then also, I think probably the estrogen was probably shocking to me from the Dutch hormone test.
Right.
Because I didn't realize that like my estrogen levels were that off. Like I assumed something was wrong because I was didn't we figure out that it was like the opposite of what we thought?
Oh, as far as it was your thyroid. It was like what we look at is we look at like your cortisol rhythms throughout the day. So many people are really tired throughout the day and they don't know why. And it's the cortisol rhythm. What your cortisol is your stress hormone, and it should be high in the morning and then low at night. Melatonin kicks in and is high at night, and then cortisol, your stress hormone's low so that you can sleep. And oftentimes people who have problems with sleep have like a flip, so that cortisol's high at night and melatonin's low at night. And then they wake up and then their cortisol's low and their melatonin's higher. So you're waking up and you feel like you're still tired, or you maybe haven't even slept at all. And then when you go to bed and you try to go to sleep and you can't because it's flipped. And it's my job to explore why that's happening. And oftentimes it's because you've got blood sugar dysregulation, which is the root cause of every hormone disease, is that your blood sugar is like this throughout the day, which when it's low, you need coffee or sugar or something to give you energy. And then when it's high, you feel kind of like artificially spiked for like, I don't know, a half hour until it's low again. So it's like this bipolar blood sugar throughout the day. And as long as that's happening and never being addressed, then you could have metabolic syndrome, which half of the American population does, only half of which are properly diagnosed. And then that's going to lend to type 2 diabetes and all the other things that are related to that. Diabetes is not a overweight issue. Diabetes just means that your blood sugar is off all throughout the day and your body is not bringing fuel into your cells so that you have energy and vitality and proper thinking. So you definitely had like that sluggish, and you had like the opposite of like the cortisol melatonin rhythm.
And then also the thyroid thing too, because I'd gone to multiple doctors before to get my thyroid tested because my mom has a thyroid issue, and all the doctors were like, oh, no, your thyroid is completely normal. And then when you looked at the results that the doctors had sent me, you were like, okay, well, this isn't helpful to me because these ranges are so big. Like,
right.
They could be normal, but like you could be, very low right here, or like you are very low right here. And like, yeah, that's normal, but it's not good.
Right, exactly. There's like these wide ranges. Like, for example, with thyroid, they look at your TSH and it could be between 0.5 and 5. And they're like, okay, well, you're within range, right? But I'm like, I would rather see you be somewhere like between 1 and 2. Like that's optimal level. So we look for optimal versus, do you already have a disease? Do you need a medication? So, and then when you're on these medications, they're not cheap. And then, the downstream effect of your health is that it takes a toll on your liver and your gut. And down the road, you're like, I don't know how I got here. And it's because our body was never intended to digest and eliminate these medications. They kind of have a residue effect that remains in our lymph. And we wonder why we can't lose weight and where our energy went and where our sex drive went. So that's a big one. And that's probably a big one that most people express, is that my doctor said everything was just fine on my labs. And I don't know, but here, take a pill. Oftentimes with thyroid is like, well, your thyroid numbers look fine, but if you're not feeling very well and if you're tired, let's numb out the fact that you're tired with an antidepressant so you don't feel that you're tired. And it's like, wait a second. If I'm tired, it's probably because your thyroid is not working properly. And it could be a mineral thing, or it could be a food thing, or a conversion thing, or a toxic liver, or it could be that your adrenals are not properly functioning. So there's so much to look at. There's so much to look at. And it's like, my heart goes out to all of you, including Bailey. It's like, it's hard to do this on your own because the health is stacked against us today. And we're told that health isn't a pill, it's in a procedure, or just to numb it out so you don't feel it. And it really isn't. And it's not exercise, more, eat less, because as Bailey said, she was eating less and she was exercising more, and it was just making her feel worse. So if you were sitting down with a girlfriend right now and she said, so like, what's the difference? You feel different from a year ago. What would you say to her about your journey and where you are now?
Like, so many aspects of my life have changed that I didn't expect to change, even just like little, healthier alternatives and stuff like that I didn't really, like even the Diva cup and stuff like that. I didn't realize, like the tampons, like what a negative effect they were having. And like, now I don't have to go and like look at your recipe book every single time to like figure out what I need to, what I can and can't be eating. And like, also that's the other thing I would say too, is when I first had the breakthrough call with you, I was just interested in, the recipe book, and that was it. I was like, oh no, I'll just start eating healthier and I'll be fine. But since working with you for those 6 months and actually, digging in deep, I feel like I learned so much more, and actually like my body just feels good. Like I feel like what people say you should feel like, and yeah. A lot of my friends after talk before, it's like kind of a taboo thing. Like, oh, everyone, how are you doing? Oh, I'm tired. But no one ever, like that's just like a go-to excuse or like response. I feel like for a lot of people, like, oh, it's the morning, but at a certain, like, you don't have to feel like that.
Yeah. But first coffee. No, but first adaptogens. How about that? But first, let's take care of the engines of your body that will give you the energy all day long, and you can't have it. So for anybody who is out there going, I'm just not sure, what kind of inspiring words would you give them? If they're scared, unsure, timid, whatever, maybe not even feeling like they're enough to feel good.
I would say that you are enough. Like the most important investment, I think, is like in yourself. And, if you're willing to invest in like education and like, various other things, like why, or like, clothes and like cars and all these things, like, why aren't you just willing to invest in your health? Like at the end of the day, like that's the one thing that you carry with you at all times. Like it affects every single thing, every single part of your life. And like, if there's anywhere you should be like making an investment in time, not only like money, but just like time, like it really isn't that time consuming. Once, like at first, like, yeah, it's like a little bit of a change, but once you like get it down, like it's just my life now. It's worth it. You're worth it. You're an investment. Invest in yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially, when you have a dream, when you have a purpose for your life, when you have a vision, and your health and your energy is the only thing holding you back, it gets annoying, and you don't want that. So Bailey, your vision, what is it that you want to be an attorney? What, you have a big vision. What is that?
I'm going to be an education law attorney. So I work 2 different school districts and just like generally advise them, like, these are the laws you need to be complying with. These are the laws, like this is how you comply with them. And
your passion there, your why is what?
All of my dad's side of the family are administrators, superintendents, deans, assistant superintendents, principals. And so a lot of my family had pushed me there almost. And then once I found out about education law, I was like, wow, I want to be a lawyer, but I also really do like education. And so it just feels good walking away of being like, I helped this district make this school safer for this child, or like,
yeah, it's your why. If your dream, if your vision is not bigger than your issues and your symptoms, then you're going to stay stuck for the rest of your life because you've married yourself to an identity of suffering. And somehow in some way that gets your needs met because you get attention from people, just like Bailey said, oh, I'm tired. Oh, me too. Or like, oh, you poor thing. Or then like your excuse, it's like a hall pass to get out of whatever responsibilities that you have to do. But it's time that we start taking control of our lives and our health and our symptoms and our bodies. And if that's you, if you're the kind of person that's like, I want to take control, I want to take my health back, I want to take my life back. And this is not a small thing. I know that there are many things that I'm going to have to do. Just like Bailey said, it's not a small feat, but it's an investment, but it's a short-term investment for long-term dividends that will never stop paying you back. It's the most intelligent investment you've ever made. And if you really quantify, like you said about clothes, it's the last thing I'll say is clothes, right? Clothes. I was like, my organizer was at my house the other day and she's like, oh my God, you have so many clothes. I'm like, yeah, because those are my horseback riding clothes. And those are like my wakeboarding clothes. And like, those are my like yoga clothes and my workout clothes and like my travel clothes and my yoga thing. Like I've got clothes for all these different things. And I'm like, and I've always been the same weight. I've never had to like buy like, 20 pounds heavier clothes or like 10 pounds lighter clothes. I've always been the same. So I'm like, wow, I've really saved a lot of money on not having to spend money on clothes that didn't fit because I was fluctuating with my weight, which is always typically like a fluctuation of weight is a fluctuation of our mental state. And it's a fluctuation of our metabolism that responds to it that way. And so if you're out there and if you're like, hey, that's me, I've been spending a lot of money on clothes and things and like hiding, if you've been spending money on hiding yourself, earlier you said that, Bailey, you said I was like hiding myself. I was like trying to get through the day. That is a prison. Yeah. That's a jail cell. So we would rather you enjoy feeding your cells, your cell health, your mitochondria that gives you life and love and laughter than living in a jail cell and handing you shitty food through the jail like cell bars. Like that's not cool. So here's your key, everybody watching, here's your key. It's your opportunity. It is your choice to open the door, unlock it, and allow us to support you. You don't have to live in this prison anymore. The solution is here. You may have looked through many doctors and many programs and many systems and many solutions, but never before has there been one for women out there which pulls all of it together where we cleanse your body, heal your hormones, and ignite your life into the unthinkable. So this is your choice. This is your invitation. I put a link on this, dianecager.com/breakthrough, where you could schedule a time with me. It's going to be the best hour of your life where we talk about what's the problem, what have you been trying, and then what can we do? And we'll map out a plan. And if the plan doesn't sound sexy and if you want to keep your prison, that's cool. But not if I have anything to do with it because it's your life. And once you have dreams and you share what they are with me, then there's no way that you will not get to them because when you have a dream, you're unstoppable. And that's what fuels the vision behind your future. So dianecage.com/breakthrough. You'll also see Bailey featured on there where she's one of our success stories, as well as many other hundreds of women. You could also watch our free masterclass video, which talks about the top 5 simple steps that our clients went through so they could break through to become a barrier busting badass. Thank you, Bailey, for being here today. I appreciate you, your journey, and all of the advice that you gave to yourself and all your past self and all the women out there.
I wouldn't have been able to do it without you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, sister. Have an amazing bar and a great vacation with your dad. And everybody else out there, if this inspires you, we will talk to you soon. Thanks again.